You know, when we talk about UFOs, our minds usually jump to strange lights in the sky or mysterious craft. But today, we're going to flip the script a little. We're not looking at the what, we're looking at the who. Let's meet the actual people, the inventors, the scientists, the advocates behind this decades-long search for answers. Because that's the real question, isn't it? Who are these people? You know, the ones who dedicated their entire lives to a subject that, let's be honest, a lot of people just dismiss? What was driving them? Well, we're about to dive in and find out. So we're going to start in a place you might not expect. We're not starting with investigators, but with inventors. These were the engineers who didn't just want to see a flying saucer, they wanted to build one. They really believed the secrets of the universe could be unlocked with blueprints and some good old-fashioned hardware. And we have to kick things off with a name you definitely know, Nikola Tesla. Yeah, he's the genius who gave us our modern electrical system, but he had some other, well, more cosmic interests. Tesla actually claimed he was picking up signals from extraterrestrial beings. He was convinced he could talk to them using his own inventions. Talk about a visionary. This guy was looking way, way beyond his time. Okay, but what if you took that vision a huge step further? Well, then you get someone like Otis Carr. He was an American inventor who wasn't just dreaming about talking to other worlds. He claimed he'd already built the tech to travel to them. He said he had a working flying saucer. So Carr's vehicle was called the OTC X1, and he said it was based on these really radical anti-gravity ideas. He even had an engineer, a guy named Ralph Ring, who claimed they actually had successful test flights. But as you can imagine, this incredible vision was met with, well, a wall of skepticism from the scientific community. It was that classic clash, the outsider inventor versus mainstream science. And that tension, that incredible gap between amazing claims and official denial, it brings us to one of the most explosive figures in UFO history, the man who said he worked at a top-secret government facility called S4, studying alien technology. Bob Lazar's claim was as simple as it was shocking. He alleged that he was hired to work at S4, a site right near Area 51, for one stunning purpose: to reverse engineer extraterrestrial spacecraft. Now, whether you believe him or not, there's no denying his story completely changed the public conversation about government cover-ups forever. So you see this shift happening, right? The conversation starts to move away from engineers trying to build the technology and towards academics and researchers trying to study the phenomenon itself. This is really the moment a formal field is born: ufology. And what is ufology? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It's the framework for investigating all these sightings. It's an attempt to apply some kind of method, some critical thinking, to a subject that, well, it often defies any easy explanation. And one of the most important people in this whole effort was J. Allen Hynek. He was an astronomer, and he brought some much-needed scientific rigor to all the chaos. He created this famous classification system, starting with simple lights in the sky and going all the way up to what he famously called close encounters. It was literally the first real attempt to categorize all these sightings in a systematic way. And Hynek was not alone. You had Jacques Vallée, a computer scientist who came up with the wild interdimensional hypothesis. He even consulted on the movie Close Encounters. And then there was Stanton Friedman, a nuclear physicist who basically became the leading voice on the Roswell incident. Each of them brought something totally different to the table, and they all pushed the study in new and fascinating directions. But here's the thing. This search wasn't just happening in the United States, not by a long shot. This fascination was, and still is, a truly global phenomenon. You had dedicated researchers popping up in almost every corner of the world. In fact, the source material we're using for this explainer lists over 30 of these researchers from all over the planet. We can't possibly cover all of them, but let's do a quick world tour just to give you a sense of how big this community really is. So this search really does span the globe. Down in South America, for example, you have people like Oscar Galangetas in Argentina and Rodrigo Fuenzalida in Chile who founded major research organizations. They really made the continent a hotspot for UFO studies. Brazil, in particular, built up this incredible community. A.J. Gavard founded the super popular Brazilian UFO magazine, and then you had Marco Antonio Petit and Claudir Covo, who co-founded a major UFO researchers association. They were building a real infrastructure. And the search just keeps going. From Vladimir Ajahaja, who was looking into sightings all across the former Soviet Union, to Junichi Yoyui, who established Japan's UFO Research Association, and the late Gaurav Tiwari, who founded the Indian Paranormal Society. It just goes to show you, the quest to understand the unknown, it really has no borders. All right, so let's pull back for a second. What's the collective impact of all these people? From the engineers in their workshops to the investigators out in the field, together, they've created this incredible, enduring legacy, one that's defined by both deep fascination and, yeah, a whole lot of skepticism. If you take just one thing away from this, let it be this number, 30 plus. Our source material names over 30 significant figures. So this wasn't just a handful of eccentrics, right? This was a multi-generational international movement, people dedicated to asking huge questions, often while being ridiculed for it. And that really gets to the heart of their legacy. It's this field defined by a constant tension, a real push and pull. On one side, you have mainstream skepticism, which correctly points out that, look, a lot of these claims are controversial and they lack hard proof. But on the other side, the work of all these seekers fuels this deep, enduring public fascination. And that conflict, that's what keeps the whole search alive. And that brings us right to the future. We've met the pioneers of the past, the engineers, the ufologists, the global advocates. Their legacy is one of bold ideas and just relentless questioning. So the final question is, who's going to pick up the torch? Who will be the seekers of tomorrow?